Good evening, my friends.
We're really honored and humbled to have you among us. I'd also like to thank all of you who came to attend this event. Some of you even came from California. Amazing. We're just in here a group of activists who want to put the nation on the right track. Our topic this evening will revolve around thinking about the future. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the star of our event of today, Bob London.
Saeed, thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be with you this evening. I have an interesting topic, thinking about the future. And thinking about the future, I'm reminded of what my friend Herman Kahn used to say, that anyone who thinks about the future and relies on a crystal ball very often has a diet of crushed glass. So I will try very hard not to impose crushed glass on you this evening. I'm not about to suggest that my view of the future is any better than yours. Reading tea leaves isn't easy. And one of the things that I would like to do is to provide a bifurcated view of the future. Two views of the future. In very crude terms, the view of the guarded optimist and the view of the pessimist. The reason why I'm guardedly optimistic is because if one looks at the planet over the last couple of hundred years, there's been a dramatic increase in the living standards across the globe. Secondly, there's been a dramatic increase in life expectancy. And in some advanced areas of the world, we will find a dramatic increase in the number of centurions, the United States being one such place. The technological developments we've seen have changed the world from Thomas Hobbes, where the world was poor, nasty, and brutish, to a world that is rich, comfortable, and largely in control of the forces of nature. It could be argued by some that the rich grow richer and the poor grow poorer. But in fact, the rich grow richer and the poor grow richer, and the poor grow richer at a faster pace than the rich grow richer. Now, I know that's hard to say, but it's also true. Why then do people continue to maintain that the rich are growing richer and the poor are growing poorer? And I'll give you an arithmetic problem. Suppose, and let me just make up some numbers, Nigeria had a per capita income of $1,000, and it had a growth rate of 20%, so that it went from $1,000 to $1,200. And the United States had a per capita income of $10,000 and was growing at 10%. What would happen? It'd go up to $11,000. Well, the disparity between 1,000 and 10,000 is not as great as the disparity between 1,200 and 11,000. What does that mean? It means that the poor nation was growing at a much faster pace than the rich nation, but it doesn't appear that way if you look at this arithmetic equation. The other thing that you can say about the future is that small changes can have profound effects. Think about the microchip, the fax machine, Facebook. I mean, these aren't profound ideas, and yet they've had a profound effect. The internet. One of the things that we have encountered is that in our world, space, speed, and intensity are critical. Now let me give you the pessimistic side of the equation. The combination of what I would call entitlements, demography, and collectivism have shattered the belief that the Western world is going to be successful. The West, for a considerable period, had certain standards about free markets, standards that were very much a part and parcel of what it meant to live in the West. Kind of liberal psychology, coming right out of the views of people like John Locke. But we are now in a very different age, where in fact, even if we say communism has been defeated, Leviathan lives. It lives through very, very big government. Government that is engaged in the redistribution of wealth through the tax system, and government that is now playing a very significant role across the globe. If you spend more than you have, which again is a pattern in much of the Western world, you're going to find yourself in a position where you really have to pay the piper. And what I'm getting at is that no matter how you deliver services, there are people in America who are saying, I need the government to take care of me. It exists everywhere. There is no one who is immune to the role of government. The debt in America at the moment, as almost everyone in the room knows, is roughly equal to GDP. How do we deal with this matter? And when will we deal with this matter? And when you think about the accumulated debt, if you go into the future, say the year 2020, you find yourself in a position where the level of debt in the United States can only be financed with the entire defense budget of today. We've got to change things. In part because of the extraordinary affluence in the West, we've seen a moral breakdown. Those moral standards play a very significant role in what capitalism is. Capitalism is necessary in a society in order to maintain freedom, but that capitalism is dependent on certain virtues: sobriety, punctuality, hard work. These are the conditions that are necessary. Well, if you have so much affluence, it doesn't make any difference. After a while, you have the cultural contradictions of capitalism, where the very things that capitalism can produce, namely wealth, leads to laziness, sloth, a lack of concern for others. These are the conditions that have emerged in very significant portions of the West. In addition, you have what I would describe as the age of the celebrity. Now, what is a celebrity? It is the importance of being well known. And so one raises a lot of questions about what is the nature of success in a society like ours, a society that puts an emphasis on constant titillation. If you can have everything, then in fact you don't have to work for it. And that is, of course, the great problem. And if you are not sure about what you believe, then you become very susceptible to fanaticism. And so the kind of fanaticism that we see in parts of the Islamic world are, in fact, one of the great issues that the West faces today. It can no longer defend its basic values. We are now engaged in an extraordinary effort to train students in what I would call incapacity, trained incapacity, an inability to understand how the world works as a result of the education you get. Now, what do students know? According to the polls, very little. It's astonishing to me that people who have been through a university education are unfamiliar with very basic questions. Now, let me tell you why I retain this faith in the American people. And so one of the things that's interesting about America is that from one generation to the next, you can't tell. From a fellow who was working with the gangs of Chicago to a national hero, from a fellow who did not care about the moral standards of the nation to a young man who gave his life for the nation, tells you a great deal about the changes that can occur in America. As one of the great philosophers of the 20th century, Fats Waller, once said, "One never knows, do one?" Thank you very much.